There are many reasons for us to devote ourselves to learning typology or psychological type. There are many ways in which we personally can benefit from this and use it to enhance our lives and to further our understanding. One of the ways I want to talk to you about today is probably one of the most important reasons, at least for me anyway. Understanding of psychological type has helped me to become more realistic when it comes to relationships. We are idealistic individuals, and in some ways to our own detriment. How many times have you ended a relationship because that one person couldn't be everything to you? How many times have you ended a relationship because your standards were so high all across the board that the other person could not possibly meet those expectations? How many times have you ended a relationship because you've been disappointed in the other person? Yes, there are reasons for leaving relationships, and I've certainly talked about that enough on this channel already. But that's not what I'm speaking about today. Today, I want to speak about the unrealistic expectations we have when it comes to relationships and how sometimes that can cause us to end relationships. I believe we put too much expectation on another person from the sense that we expect them to be everything to us. This stems from a lack of self-awareness. We can believe that we can be everything to someone else. It's our expectations of ourselves put on somebody else. How many times have you experienced disappointment with yourself in a relationship because you feel you've let the other person down in some particular way? How many times have you experienced that disappointment in yourself, that disillusionment? In order to understand this and to make something of it, you have to see certain things about yourself, and whether or not you're ready to see those things depends on whether or not you're ready to move forward with mature relationships. When someone is disappointed in how you've responded to a situation or a scenario, when you know you've disappointed someone else, what's your reaction to that? Is your reaction to be self-deprecating? I'm not good enough. I can never be good enough. You can go that way with it, and that's harmful. Or you can respond the other way. This person doesn't understand what I'm trying to give to them. Therefore, they can't understand me. Therefore, this relationship is not going to work out, and I'm going to end it. Really, what you need is the balance in there, and the balance can only come from seeing yourself clearly as somebody who isn't going to be everything for another person either. I can't possibly be all for someone else. It doesn't work that way. If you don't understand this, you end up seeing yourself unrealistically special in one of two ways. On one hand, you're some god or goddess in an ivory tower. No one understands me. I can't be understood. My only choice is to be alone because no one deserves me and everything I have to offer. And that's some kind of special right there that you don't want to be. The other kind of special is the self-deprecating kind. I'll never be in a relationship. I can't do anything right. I can't find any friends because I can't be understood, which also leads to cynicism. Neither place is a place of honesty where you are being honest with yourself, so you need to find the balance in it. When you realize you can't possibly be everything to an individual because you've understood they can't possibly be everything to you, then you stop expecting it. And instead, a healthier expectation takes its place. I've certainly made videos here where I've alluded to that desire we have. Well, I haven't alluded to it, I've pretty much spelled it out, that we have that desire. It's crucial that you recognize this in yourself. But what can you do with that? What's good about it? What's not so good about it? And then honing that to a self-understanding that allows you to have relationships which help you to grow. So when you realize, I'm not everything to one person, you won't be so disappointed and disillusioned when you let someone down. I can't be that for you. I know myself and what I can realistically give to you. I've even told people in my life, you need this kind of friend for you because I can't fulfill that role in your life. When you see that, you realize you can't expect someone else to be your everything either. Some people can get pretty close, but no one is going to fulfill that role 100%. This is where typology comes in, understanding of psychological type, because in this way, INFJs can be very logical beings. So understanding type has helped me be, strangely enough, more logical in finding relationships. In our younger years, the FE went out into the world quite naively and trusting, but we're also introverted thinkers. And so we have to process things through that part of our brain in order for it to make sense to us, in order for it to be useful. When you're operating in an unbalanced way from extroverted feeling, and you don't think about what you're observing or seeing, that's when you find yourself surrounded with 100 friends that don't really mean anything to you because you haven't thought through it in a way that makes sense. And of course, that's part of being immature. I would just be exuberant. I feel drawn to this person for this reason or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're in a relationship or friendship with somebody, and then feelings change and something happens which upsets you, and that's it, you're done. That's kind of what I was referencing in the beginning. It stems from an unrealistic, idealistic feeling sort of way. When you get balance in your person, you realize there has to be more than this in a relationship, and ironically, that's when you are able to have real feelings for someone else, something deep and meaningful. And that's where relationships become these wonderful things. And this is where typology has meaning, because it helps to put the flesh on the bones of understanding, so to speak. It has helped me greatly in understanding people in a deeper way. It comes first from understanding myself. I know I'm an INFJ type. I know what my functions are. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. But more importantly, I know who I am. And with that knowledge, you can go about finding meaningful relationships. To make this personal for me, I definitely need people in my life who encourage me and inspire me to develop my mind. I love people like this. They help me sharpen myself in that way. However, sometimes those kinds of people, their strength is not giving me the specific, I won't say emotional support because they certainly can. You just have to understand the individual and what their emotional support looks like. Sometimes someone helping you to solve your problem, that is emotional support for them, and it's very valid. But there are some times when you just want a different kind of emotional support, someone to give you words of comfort and expressions of comfort. To use an example, I have an ISFJ female friend who is married to an ENTJ male. Recently their dog died. She was devastated and crying every day. It's not like he wasn't supportive, but his means of support was to tell her that he had dealt with all those feelings when their first dog died years before, and so he had already gone through that already. I get what he was saying from knowing the ENTJ cognitive stack, and I know he meant those words to be helpful, but it's not really what she needed in the moment. So she needed me, someone who would give all the words of comfort and hugs of support and just listen when she cried. She didn't want a pep talk. She didn't want to know the logical reason why it would be okay. She just wanted someone to hear her and cry with her. And that's what I did. If she had expected her husband to provide that role for her and held it against him that he did not, it would have been a disappointment which could potentially start to pile up with all the other disappointments over time. Instead, in her wisdom, she called the person, in this case me, whom she knew could give her what she needed in that moment. I appreciate this sort of emotional support as well. I was modeled this specific type of love and caring from my mother, and I've always known I've cherished this particular type of comfort because of her. She would comfort me in this beautiful, purely extroverted feeling way. Whenever I was sick, she would take care of me and love me and hug me and hold me. It was a warmth and softness she would provide for me. When I was a teenager, I would go to her when I had a problem, and she would listen to me. I needed to talk about the problems I was having at the time, and she would quietly listen to me. At night sometimes we would watch TV, and I would just cuddle up with her on the sofa, and she would just hold me, and there was nothing in the world like that. That was very important to me, and I need this in my life, just like my ISFJ friend realized that the person who was her rock, in many ways, wasn't the man for the job when they lost their dog. And so there is a realization that maybe the person who is providing the problem-solving logical inspiration for me is not necessarily the person who is going to give me that. But conversely, someone like my mother could never give me that logical support. I told my mother a lot of problems. I would open up myself to her, and I know in many ways she did not understand me. It wasn't in her capability to see things the way I saw them. but it didn't matter. I still loved her. I remember thinking my mother didn't understand me, but because I understand type, now I understand why, and it makes sense to me. It helps not to have an unrealistic expectation of someone, in this case my mother, because her strength was that beautiful loving support and the warm home she provided. All the beautiful little things she did for me, the notes in my lunchbox. She would write me notes and quietly tuck them away in my lunchbox without my knowledge, and I would be having a bad day at school and there was a note from my mother at lunchtime to brighten my day. It was all those little things which meant so much. And you can't undervalue those, and you can't throw someone under the bus just because someone like that can't think deeply in the way I define it. It's an unrealistic expectation of a person and devalues them instead of seeing them for the beautiful individual they are and seeing the strengths that they have. Understanding of type has helped me with these things. It's keeping me realistic. It's helping me to understand what specific people can offer in my life. And yes, everyone is unique in the sense that every person has their own personality, which is influenced by many things. Type is not your personality. Type is just measuring something about you. However, it's a way to start. But there is more to friendships and relationships than type. Let's say you put two ISFJs together. It goes beyond just type with friendship. It goes to the person. I could put two ISFJ women together. One doesn't have anything in common with me. We don't share any interests. Maybe she doesn't really want to think philosophically. She doesn't want to have those sorts of conversations. She might be realistically capable, but just hasn't valued developing that part of herself. But then there's another ISFJ over here with the same strengths as the first one, but the two of us have things in common, and we can talk about those things and build on them. And she is willing to have the same kinds of conversations I want to have. So type is a good place to start, but there has to be more than that. So for me, type has been very helpful in allowing me to be more purposeful and intentional in choosing relationships. I'm going to use the analogy of a flower bouquet. It's not a perfect analogy, but it helps express my point. I've grown many different flowers in flower gardens over the years. When you arrange flowers, you look for different things. You might be looking for color, fragrance, height, filler. All these things go into flower arranging to make the perfect bouquet. Because now you've understood something about yourself, which is you can't be everything to one person. Now you understand you can't expect someone else to be everything for you. And now, because you have a more holistic understanding of humanity through learning psychological type, now you can be more purposeful in finding meaningful relationships. So with that knowledge in mind, and the past behind you, littered with poor choices and unrealistic expectations and all the rest, you can move forward now in deliberately choosing and nurturing friendships. You can move forward purposefully and intentionally. It's like making a flower bouquet. You choose your friends as you would your flowers. Each one is valued in the bouquet for what they provide. And because you have this holistic understanding of flower arranging, aka humanity and relationships, you can be the flower in someone else's bouquet as well. In my life, I have different flowers. There are different roles in friendship, just as each flower has its specific role in the bouquet. I have an ENFJ friend who taught with me years ago. We developed a great relationship which lasts to this day. We hardly see one another as we've both moved on from those original teaching positions. We are in touch every once in a while, but this is what works for us. And there is a quiet understanding there that will always be there. I have an ESFJ friend who shares one interest with me, but it is an interest which I have loved for decades and still love to this day. She supports me and cheers me on in every way when it comes to that interest, and I do the same for her. She doesn't live near me. We've only met each other one time. We email each other about once a month, but it works for us. And we have a support system in each other in a very particular way. And of course, there are the obvious friends, the ones who influence me weekly or even daily. There is room for all of this in my life. You know what you need in your life. This is an individual thing. But as an INFJ, you have powerful intuition. When you're honest with yourself, the intuition can work in a seeking way and be a powerful force. It can lead you to the proper flowers for your bouquet and add real and true beauty to your life's landscape.